Hey, what's up, everybody? Appreciate y'all for joining us for One One Sports Show. My name is Shawnee,
My name is Dante.
and I'm over here getting these topics together because I believe we got a lot of topics we want to try to run down today. So, Dante, I guess I figured we can start off with the Cowboys, Eagles, and then just from there, just kind of merge on into just what is this NFL Week
It's
9?
going into week 10 right now, I think.
Okay, so we just recap Week 9 then.
Yeah, yeah, recap and re-9, and because we it had a lot of big stuff. We had like a historic day for Shawnee's Texans, and this was like, man, they're looking in. Actually, it's one of those few times because in the Metroplex, you can't always watch Texans games because it's kind of like it's so Cowboy centric, and they normally playing at 12, and so normally the noon game they put the conference rivals. So, but it was one of those days where the Texans were on one channel, and the Cowboys played the next game. So it was cool to see what C.J. Stroud was gonna do, but we're gonna get into that later. We're gonna go ahead and off top. I said it last week. I was gonna stand front and center. We were mentioning about the Cowboys being able to beat a current playoff team. And so the Cowboys had their opportunity. They did not succeed. And it's one of those deals like I'm talking about as soon as the game went final. Black man immediately told us, was like, I told you they couldn't be the playoff team. And it was one of those deals that's like, hey, yeah, KP, Joe Burrow looking pretty good right now. And so it's kind of like the Bengals for whatever reason just start slow and then just all gas no brakes after that. But as far as the Cowboys, it was one of those deals where the way the offense had looked up until the San Francisco game, it hadn't looked great. And then how it looked against the Chargers, okay, it didn't look better. And then the Rams, it looked a little better. And then they looked really good against the Eagles. It just wasn't enough to win. Too many mistakes. And it was one of those deals to where if you look at that game, 50-50 things, where it's just like coin flip things happen, especially games around, that's around a certain amount of point range in the NFL. It's the smallest things, it's detail, and that was the biggest thing that came up this week was detail from the film watching YouTube guys to the former players YouTube guys, and national people, just details, little small things. The only thing I want to say is this. I understand that it is, of course, and I know everyone was just that hates the Cowboys was so happy they lost and everything, especially Eagles fans. But it's one of those deals to where don't like. And I heard Jesse Holly playing the NFL say this: don't get those clips from people and get it construed like, oh, Dak should have did this, and don't think you know more than like an NFL player or NFL coaches. If you don't know the assignment, you don't know the blocking protections. Stop getting those clips and doing things. And one of the plays they were talking about was they ran two pick routes on the fourth down play where the tight end didn't score, and they were saying was he probably knew he had to get it out quick, and for whatever however the key was to go to the tight end. The one tight end when he ran his pick play, he didn't run enough to make that safety have to go over him.
Yeah, Ferguson.
Yeah, and Ferguson, and then the tight end caught the ball and then didn't get it in the end zone, and it was back to that thing about it was a catch and. Okay, he caught it. It was a catch, but it was one of those weird deals where it's like, okay, they didn't score, whatever. But just the small details like that, little things like you get, little things that are a matter of luck. Recovering fumbles are luck, but the Eagles fumbled three times and recovered all three fumbles. So it's just one of those deals, right? It just that didn't go your way. Officiating was bad on both sides, so I'm not the fan to cry about officiating. I know other fan bases do that. Some Cowboys fans do that. I'm not a cry about officials guy because normally if there's a bad call here, you catch a break somewhere else. It's
Yeah,
just human nature.
the only time you can really see um, an official if he's doing an excellent job, which I've seen before, is baseball. Because they literally have, you got the strike zone, and they literally keep up with the umpire, his calls, whether it's a strike or a ball. And there was one ump, I think he damn near had a perfect game. You could see that. Basketball and football is so hard to do. It's just so
Yeah,
much, especially football. You got, I don't know the total amount of refs on the field, but you got 11 players 22 players on the field at all times, going at a high rate, just colliding and collisions everywhere. So some calls are blatant, but I can't I can't always. Let's just like a really blatant call, like the play that you was just talking about with the Ferguson not getting deep. I was telling somebody that's how you know every route has a purpose. He's just not going up there running a route. Ferguson didn't get deep enough on his rub route. Schoonmaker caught the ball, even though you saw the defender was actually tackling Schoonmaker before he even caught the ball. So they missed that, but just by the details of Ferguson's route, because he didn't get enough depth on his route, it kept Blankenship, who made the tackle, on Schoonmaker, and that's why basically, because Schoonmaker, he's a big dude, he could just lean into the end zone, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately he was getting tackled as soon as he caught the ball, so he couldn't lean anymore, because the ball landed right on in the
Yeah.
plane of the end zone. That would have been a touchdown, but unfortunately his knee, which Blankenship was going down on,
It was
so it happens.
forward.
Then you
It,
had Dak scramble, made a good scramble. I heard people was telling about
it
Dak should
stepped
have
out
cut up more. I'm like, no, the defenders had an angle on him. That was
of the
he's
angle.
not Lamar Jackson. He don't have that type of
He
speed.
don't got wheel. He don't got wheels
Yeah,
like
but
that.
he just unfortunately
No, no,
when he
whoa,
cut
whoa,
up,
whoa.
he touched
I
up.
was gonna, Black man. I was gonna get to the first topic. The first answer is no.
Was
As of right now, the Cowboys don't, because their path to the Super Bowl is going to be so difficult, and they haven't
yeah,
been able to beat the top two teams in the conference. So as of right now, you have to say no. You cannot say all Cowboys fans do that, because you're literally talking to two Cowboys fans that are says, I cannot help you if you talk to those people that talk about the 5 Super Bowl rings and do all of the complaining. I'm not one of those guys, so I'm not gonna. You can, hey, you can talk about the other ones, not me. This is even if you got to put the comment and say not these two, 'cause I can't, I don't do
I
that.
see.
Like,
KP, you talking about he can't take a sack?
no,
Nah,
no, no.
he
Whoa,
he
now
he
I'm gonna
he
talk about
can't
the stat.
he
But
can't.
everything,
That
okay,
came from in the pocket, man, and
everything from in
still
the
gave
pocket.
him no time.
If
He said Hunt took one step back and he was sacked.
he
You don't have
throws
no
that
time to
ball
do
away,
anything.
that's the one thing about the angle. If you throw the ball away and everyone has dissected it, if he
Yeah,
throws that ball away, that then he gets the penalty because it's intentional grounding and a clock runoff.
yeah,
So the sack came so fast, he didn't have a time to do anything. He took it. The problem really was the sideline, the coaching, as far as the coaching and quarterback, whoever is on both, you can't get the delay of game penalty. The false start, you can't get that false start. If you get the ball at the 6, you got to go ahead and get that bad boy in there.
yeah.
And so
That was Smith.
that
That
was
was, I think,
Smith. That was Smith, and Smith was one of those. If it's a tackle, they don't call that. It was a really good get off, and I mean, what sucks is he had a really, as an individual player, he had a really good game aside from that play, because the interior of that Eagles front is ferocious,
yeah.
and
That
you
whole
did not
thing.
you did not hear Jalen Carter's name much that game, and what Tyler Smith is one of the
You
reasons why.
saw it was whoever Steele, Terrence Steele
Still,
was hard. That I'm
still
like this
gave
dude
up.
he was a turnstile. He looked so slow versus them Eagles. It's not like they was doing a whole lot of moves to get by him. They was just too fast for him, and he struggled. Um,
They should
but
have said no.
yeah, they
That
they
was
got
clearly
to the
out.
6 yard line after that Lamb catch, and then there was a encroachment. So that's what put them on the 6 because Lamb got them to the 11. The encroachment put them on the 6. Then from there, false start, and then from there, what was it? False start, delay a game,
And,
sack,
you know, that, and then they got the
and,
they got the play
and
right at the end.
yeah,
And it's like, and it's one of those deals where you got to execute. It's all about the small details. And while other stuff is 50-50, you have to be able to handle your business on like the small details. Like, yes, unfortunately, you scrambling and you step out of bounds, but you had too many. Oh, it was just this close, and it's like, now the thing I will say is the Eagles have shown that they are able to win those close games, and however it is, even not playing their best, they're shown they're able to win games. They're really banged
I
up, and they need this bye week. But coming up, they have a tough stretch,
yeah, they have a tough
I
stretch.
would say the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Lions, those teams are going to be vying for either the top wild card. The
Mm-hmm.
loser of those teams are going to either be in the top wild card, and the others are going to be division winners. And so they all have either played each other or going to play each other this season. Like the Cowboys go through like a stretch of the season where if they handle business, they can be in position to still make a shot at winning the division. It's gonna be tough being 2 games back, but they still play the Eagles one more game. So, but they have to do a good stretch of winning because the Eagles are going through a tough stretch, and I think the Cowboys let's say they last 5 of their last 6 are against tough opponents. I think they go back to back at Buffalo. At first they play, I think they play the Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, and so it's like that's a tough stretch for them. And I think they finished up against Washington, but it's one of those deals where they looked better, but it wasn't. They didn't do enough of the details to win the game. So that's what you really want. You want the win, but it's just like okay, from the quarterback play side and a team play side. The last time you see them in a national game, they got their doors blown out. So you're glad that you didn't get to. Obviously, you're glad that you didn't look like that. That was a pathetic performance, but you want to do enough to win. So the case will be made when you see the Eagles in December on Sunday Night Football. How are you gonna respond? Better yet, how are you gonna win enough games to be in position to see where your season's gonna end up?
Black man just naming all type of quarterbacks. I guess they would have scored on that. Of course, Lamar would have scored on that scramble. He's faster than Dak. Josh Allen's faster than
With
Dak.
Derek Carr
Cousins and C.J. Stroud. I don't know if C.J. Stroud is faster. I don't know who's faster out them. I don't know what was his 40 time.
He's younger. He's
He
younger.
may be fast because he's younger, and then he hasn't had a ankle injury like Dak. Dak hasn't really been running as much after he broke his ankle. But yeah, a lot of those quarterbacks. I don't know about Cousins. Cousins, no. Yeah, who knows? They probably would have scored. Definitely Lamar, because he would have been able to turn up. Allen probably would have too, because he would have been able to turn up. But the Eagles defender had a good angle on Dak, so he just couldn't turn up until when he did. They had an excellent angle on. They was pushing him out. I forgot the exact defender. He said Burrow would have scored on that calf muscle. Yeah, he's slower than that. But as for I see KP brought up 1 point about Lamar, and I guess I'm assuming from this past game, Lamar, he was just basically, I don't want to say what he did. He put up pedestrian numbers when they played against this last game against Seattle. He didn't have to do much. That run game of theirs just dominated. I mean, they almost had 300 yards rushing. Keaton Mitchell had almost 140, just under 140 on 9 carries alone. And then you had 60 from Lamar, 52 from Gus Edwards, and 40 from Hill. I'm like, he didn't have to do much. I mean, they just destroyed Seattle on the line. So
it's a situation you don't. We do this a lot because we focus on, a lot of us play fantasy. A lot of us, look at the stats and, things they're so readily available. Sometimes we don't put enough stock in just playing winning football, just doing enough to make sure your team wins. If we had the conversation about Brock Purdy, he doesn't have some of the gaudy stats at times that other quarterbacks have. Well, playing winning football, hey, it's 3rd and 6. Can you convert that 3rd and 6 on a key drive? Can you get that 3rd and 6 when your team is up 7? You get that conversion throwing the ball. Now we're gonna just run the clock out and sit on the clock and drain it. So it's like making plays and not knowing, hey man, he don't need to do it at this point. The running game is handling it. Hey, now coming up when they play the Bengals, you're gonna have to make some plays in the air. You got to make some plays with your own.
Especially the way the Bengals are.
And the Bengals,
right they don't fire.
I think they play the Browns, and they play the Browns this week. So that's gonna be a big game because they got a hellacious defense. So they might not give up as much on the ground. And the last time they played them, it was a real tight game. So now, even if the numbers aren't gaudy and it's an ugly game, can you make enough plays to put your team in position to win? While quarterbacks wins may not per se be a stat, making winning plays, doing things to put your team in position to win, that's what really counts. So,
and I know, and I think because you brought his name up earlier, I believe by far the best QB performance was C.J. Stroud. Nearly 500 yards passing, 5 TDs, 407 yards to be exact. 5 TDs. Let me see what else his numbers had.
While you pulling those numbers, I'm gonna say the most impressive thing was their field goal kicker got injured in that game.
Oh yeah.
So they had to go for it on 4th downs. You had the pressure of knowing that, hey, we got to go for 2. And then you had the backup running back. he came out and kicked one extra point. But and you just having that pressure of knowing, hey, there's no okay, we're gonna get points here, so let's just don't take a sack. And then I was like, nah, we got to go for this on fourth down. Like, nah, we got to go push for it and go for it. I was really impressed by that, and just the fact that
The
I'm not
field
gonna
goal
lie,
he made, the field goal he made was actually pretty decent.
yeah.
It was straight.
And what did they have? If you look at it, they averaged 3.1 yards a carry, and he had 42 dropbacks, so 42 attempts. So it's like, man, you're not you're not asking him, and he was sacked 3 times. That's an incredible performance,
Well,
man.
the thing about the Texans, it was two former Cowboys who had breakout games, by far their
Breakout.
best games. Noah Brown, 6 receptions for 153 yards. Most of it was on that 75-yard touchdown he had. And Dalton Schultz had 10 receptions for 130 yards. So, he went off, and those two definitely were the main
Yeah,
recipients from his
Dalton
play and
Schultz won
whatnot.
my fantasy game with that big game he
I
had.
wish I would have had somebody on here, but I don't have no Texans on my squad. They had a good game this game, and then who knows? I need to see who they play with next week.
I
It
mean,
may
you
not
being
change much till
biased
next
saying
week.
Carr would have scored that. Carr not fleet of foot like that. Carr is not fleet of foot like that. We gotta
Nah,
we gotta stop the cap. We gotta stop it somewhere. I know we can Dak bash, but I don't know because
this is what I say when I put up on the internet one time about who gets scrutinized more between Lamar and Dak.
yeah,
Yeah, you can see easily is Dak. If he lose, no matter what, Dak could put up C.J. Stroud numbers, and if the Cowboys somehow lose, Dak will take all the darts.
mhm,
And they don't. Nobody gonna look at the defense because probably somebody on the defense got burnt for the last. It probably been a shootout. So Dak was keeping the offense in the game, but then also nobody's looking at the defense giving up almost 500 yards.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's just is what it is with Cowboys and Dak. Dak will take all the heat. Only time you won't hear anything about Dak unless they win. It's literally all or nothing. All or nothing.
He said Purdy would have scored. I don't know. He can move a little bit, but I don't know. In that play in that situation, I'm only going with the super elite guys fleet of foot that would have scored. One of them I'll talk about that would have scored if you want to say that is hey man, Joshua Dobbs is making himself some money this season. And
Yeah, he
he's
went
good.
to that game. He did not take any offensive snaps during the practice because I think he didn't report to them until Wednesday. He didn't
Yeah,
report to Minnesota till Wednesday. Took no offensive snaps during practice, and he wasn't supposed to play. But I think the quarterback in front of him got hurt, the
he
second
got a
string. So here come Dobbs, and they literally, calling the plays to him. He don't know the verbiage at all, but the coach saying, okay, you know, this is where the receiver gonna go here. This is where the receiver gonna go. He just took it and ran.
yeah.
I was like,
He
well,
I
the
mean,
dude is he a rocket scientist, so
yeah, and that's why what a true definition of what a backup quarterback is supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come in a pinch, help your team, and do just enough. You don't got to be spectacular, but I mean, he led them to a drive. I know the Falcons just going Falcon. That's just crazy. And I saw that game and I was like, y'all were big in that one, and they just
now
squandered that.
he had his share he had his share of turnovers. He had 3 fumbles and lost two. But he was able
Yeah,
to recuperate from that. And yeah, the Falcons, you got beat by a QB who really didn't really have a chance to practice. Even brand new to the team, had no practice, and y'all got beat by that dude. And I don't know
that's
what I don't know what's going on in Atlanta right now because I have Bijan Robinson, and I'm noticing because somebody brought this up on the internet. I'm noticing Atlanta loves to go and draft these flashy offensive guys, but then as soon as they get them, they don't put no numbers up when with that team. They did that with Calvin Ridley. He wasn't really doing too much, and then of course it got kind of cut short because of his
the
suspension from the
game.
gambling. Kyle Pitts, you seeing that right now? Well, there was one rumor that the Cowboys were looking at trading for Kyle Pitts. Uh, Bijan Robinson, I have no idea what they're doing. I mean, that dude not getting the ball enough to even be effective anymore. It's like they don't. They have all these other holes they have on their team, but let a shiny new offensive skill player come on, they'll draft them first, and then they go about they don't use them correctly. And so I'm like, I have no idea what's going on down there, but I know they're killing me with my fantasy with Robinson because and the thing about it, he was doing he was doing well at the beginning of the season. Somebody
Yeah,
in my league had him. I traded for him immediately when I traded for him. That's when he had that one game where he only had one carry, and everybody's wondering what happened to him, and he hasn't done nothing since. I'm like, oh hell, how did I trade right when I trade him? Y'all pull
yeah,
some of
just
this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Atlanta.
they got a weird situation because from everything I've heard about their offense, because I'm not just checking out Falcons games like that. So from hearing what they say, they're real creative with the formations, and they do a real good job of making it somewhat what I've heard positionless football and guys coming in motion and getting guys the football, which I guess you can see that from when they had Cordell Patterson and having him used as a Swiss Army knife. So to get a guy like Bijan Robinson, when of course they're a bad team, you had other needs. Yeah, I can understand saying, hey, this is the best player on the board, which you could make the same thing for Calvin Ridley. But you also have a need. It's one of those deals. Some teams overvalue going to get a QB, but they undervalue it. They have had opportunities where they could have went and got a more valuable player at a position, at a different position. They haven't done it, and now they just kind of stuck in the rut. Like I commend them from like trying to build a secondary and having um having a pretty good secondary, going out and getting a guy like Jesse Bates, and making a rule of a buy low deal on getting Jeff Okuda. When his stock was a little down, but still got a talented MO and background. But they just putting it all together, getting somebody to rush the passing. I mean, good moves. We're getting like a Calais Campbell, past his prime, but him and having him and Grady Jarrett in there, but it's like they're just a weird team. It's really weird, and it's
Yeah,
just like they already rumored to be on the market for a guy like a Kyler Murray if he's available, and it's just kind of like and I remember Falcons fans and like some feed was like, well, we had this, and they had Matt Ryan. I was like, man, that year with the what was it? Was it Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and all of them were available, and I was like, we had opportunities to get a quarterback, and you just didn't. You did do it. It's a weird deal, man. That's
I
just
think that's
like
when they
that.
got that's when they
Really
get
got
Kyle
picks.
Pitts.
And
Yep.
it makes no sense. And that's the thing. It's not a tight end's fault, but it is the fault of the team that takes them. And that's normally why they don't go high. Tight ends need a good quarterback, a quarterback that's going to get them the ball, and they have to learn the position. Learning the position is tough, but I mean, it happens that every team makes those kind of draft mistakes. Even as the Cowboys, as good as they draft, this last draft looks like a bad one, because or one of those where you're trying to win, but you're getting players that are going to maybe help you down the road. And it's just every team makes weird picks. It's just continuously doing it like the Falcons, and continually to not get a guy and let Matt Ryan hang on. Just a weird deal. And speaking of misery, I know the Panthers have to be kicking themselves. And I still say it with this caveat, and I'll stand on this. Yeah, they look bad right now with Bryce Young, but Bryce Young was a pro-ready guy. Yeah, and don't come talking to me about the size, because the quarterback that had the prototypical size is currently out for the season, and that's Anthony Richardson. But if you look at it, and I was hearing some talk, Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud have both outplayed Bryce Young, and it's one of those deals where he's going that trial by fire. He's getting his teeth kicked in. I know they don't have their first round pick, but they're gonna have to spend some money make sure the offensive line is right. Make sure that they get him some weapons, and whatever draft picks they do have, they need to draft efficiently, because I've saw him, he was too good of a quarterback at Bama to look like this. Some of it's on him, some of it's on the team, and it's looking like, why the hell did you hire Frank Wright? Why did you do that? Like, why did you go get a retread? You ain't got a retread, so I'm going to keep banging the drum. The Commanders' offense, although it has some nice weapons, it does not have a quarterback that is just spectacular. Like I turned on that game, and all I could hear was the announcer saying, "What were you looking at?" It's hard to get an announcer to talk like that, and it's just like he threw the ball, and it was just like, "You're clearly outside the pocket. Throw the ball away." And he just threw it right to a defender. And I was like, why did you think you could make that throw? And it's one of those deals like, Sonny, I'm sorry. I really think it's the coordinator making him look better than he is, and the weapons. They got to get that guy. That's not gonna make it. I
You
don't
talking
think
about
that's
Sam Howell?
How now? I know he's gonna get more time, but it's just like, nah, they need to. Obviously, it's gonna get there. I think they already lost to the Eagles twice, and they still have two against the Cowboys. I think those are two losses where the Cowboys just fall asleep. They need to try to get them a quarterback. Yeah, I think it's time. They haven't taken one high since they had Dwayne Haskins, so it's time for them. But that was watching them and the Patriots. Yeah, I'm glad it was a noon game. Patriots are one team. They don't need to be on TV at all. Like them being on TV, how they and I know they had a lot of hope for the Bears, and then the injuries didn't work out for them, and so it's bad. Some of the mix of primetime games have been terrible. I didn't get a chance to watch the Bills and Bengals, but that was one that I was interested in, and I'm still sick at the NFL for having that Chiefs and Dolphins game in Germany, having it all early.
Yeah,
But it,
I
it
mentioned
wasn't
it.
as
I mentioned
good
that.
as what I wanted it to be because the Chiefs are like a defensive team now. Like they are a defensive team, and I respect it.
Dolphins
But
had a chance, but unfortunately, Tua couldn't hold on to the snap. He botched
yeah,
the
if they get
snap.
that snap,
So,
and
but
they
I was looking trying to catch up on the other story. Want to transition over to this Michigan scandal, and basically just to fill everybody in, I forgot the dude's name. He was somebody on the Michigan
I got his
government
name. I got his
staff.
name right here. Hold on, I got the story pulled up. Let me see. I know his last name is Stallions because he just got let go. Well, he just got fired or stepped down. However you want to say it, but they had Connor Stallions,
Okay, so Connor Stallion. So basically,
low level.
he was called what was it? Central Michigan. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
was Central
why he
Michigan.
was at Central Michigan. I mean, I don't know why you scouting that hard at Central Michigan when your team is ranked the top two. But he was basically caught on camera in like a little Central Michigan cap, trying to be in disguise, and I guess it's illegal. He was all on the sidelines like he was on the coaching staff. And then when it was one clip. I guess the player he must have was had some speed, so he kind of ended up jumping on this platform, and you can see Connor. He kind of put his head down because the action came over there by him. And he kind of put his head down, trying to you know keep in the shadows somewhat. But anyway, he got caught on the sidelines of the game. I don't know if he was filming. He got caught filming or had just a legal presence at a game. And now the Big Ten, well, the coaches, the Big Ten coaches want the Big Ten conference to act quickly in punishing Michigan. And they really want them to come down hard on Michigan, whether that's banning them from this year's playoffs or whatever. They trying to get Michigan out of there this season.
Yeah,
And you have, basically they basically whining because Michigan is winning their game, so they want them out. You have some people like, man, because nobody can really point to uh, head coach Jim Harbaugh as
yeah,
something, but in college football, one thing in college football, especially on a successful head coach, is damn near a dictatorship.
yep.
They
They know everything.
know everything that
They
they're,
know the fleet.
especially somebody on their staff. They know everything that what's going on. So Harbaugh, he's coming. He say, he had no clue that this was going on, and it's kind of, um, it's like, hold on,
Yeah.
it's kind
It's
of
it's
different
like
because when the Astros got in trouble in 2017 and they suspended the manager and the GM before the owner ultimately cut both of them. Well, the GM he had no clue what's going on, but they like because the MLB sent out a league-wide memo about hey if your team basically it's a get out of jail free card if your team is doing anything of this sort stop it
yep.
immediately. And when the Astros got caught, thanks to that damn Mike Fires, uh, uh, they held Jeff Luna, the GM at the time, even though he didn't know, but because they started from the head up, and went down to the manager. But it's you can believe that Lunau didn't have, cause it was player driven. So Lunau didn't have no knowledge of what was going on at that. And Hinch at the time he was trying to, well, he wasn't stopped. Well, he kind of stopped it. He was smashing the TV, but I guess he never officially came to the team and said, "Y'all stop do this." Every time he saw the video monitor in the clubhouse, he smashed it. In college football, though, completely different. That head coach, he knows everything what's going on in his program,
That control
and
freak.
I believe they say Connor, I forgot his last name again, but what
Yeah,
he did, it wasn't like it was instant where he just all of a sudden made up his mind, oh, I'm going to Central Michigan and stay on the sideline. It was kind of a build up. It was like,
yeah,
okay, you didn't see, you never saw this dude, or there was no word of him going to these campuses illegally, and
yeah. And then like
so
it was widespread. Like they got him for he had bought more than 30 tickets to games involving either Michigan's Big Ten
on a
opponents or potential.
50K salary.
Yeah, and that so it's just like, nah, bro, you floating him the money. Like he's the fall guy, but y'all are doing this to get a little extra edge. And my thing is, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna look at it like this. Look at the last couple of drafts when Michigan has actually beaten Ohio State, which Ohio, and I say Ohio State as the standard, that's their rival, but that's the team that has owned the Big Ten. Those two teams have owned the Big Ten in their history. And for them to be finally getting guys, beating Ohio State and getting guys drafted at the high rate, it's the talent more so than this little low level staffer. Like they said, that guy, like you said, 50,000, and you know how much you can make in college football. So I think it's a deal where it's like he cheating, but y'all are all cheating. Like Coach Brown has alluded to, like a lot of people are doing that, and essentially what he's doing, going and scouting teams ahead of time, that's called advanced scouting. In the NFL, they do it, which I'm very familiar with it. On the college level, that's not allowed. And also, what's going to get them off is the fact that stealing signs is not officially. It may be taboo, but it's not officially in the rule book. You cannot steal signs. And like I heard somebody mention, like for goodness grave, was it just a few years ago? Everybody had the signs where it was like, say for instance, it's Drake on one thing, and then it's Lil Wayne, and then it's like a picture of the mascot, and it's all kind of weird stuff giving out signs, and that's a play call. So it's like you're putting things on display. People are going in and picking it up. It's kind of, it's not nothing. It is something, but it is kind of like sometimes when I see people kind of complain about it, certain Big Ten schools, or you complain about they cheating, or you complain that they kicked your butt. Like what which one of you
yeah,
work or you mad?
it's the latter.
And it's kind of like, yeah, so it's like go out and beat them and then call them cheaters and say, hey, we beat you anyway, and everything like that. But I still see Michigan, just because that quarterback the little I've seen for that quarterback from Ohio State with a great receiver like that, I ain't buying it. I ain't buying they do nothing. And JJ McCarthy, he's actually up for the Heisman. He's up for the Heisman in my opinion. And well, a lot of people's opinion. I think like he's gonna be actually the difference this time, because he looks a lot better. It looks a lot more comfortable. Whereas last year was kind of like it was real shaky. But it's been widespread. It's been going on because TCU knew that Michigan was doing this, and they had dummy signals. They had dummy stuff in there just to throw them off, and they won that game too. But it's I don't know. It's something, but they also, and they're covering themselves by some of the stuff that they signed, some of the stuff that they stole, that information was shared with other Big Ten schools. So it's just like, yeah, so it's like they're doing a bunch of stuff to make sure that they cover their own butt. They're definitely making sure that it ain't, kind of like, what is it from New Jack City? New Jack City was like it's bigger than Nino Brown. They got a list of names, and they about to start singing. They about to start singing, and they're gonna bring down the whole conference. And to allude to what you said before, not to give the Astros a break, because I don't rock with them. I've heard that a lot of players didn't really push on that cheating scandal because they know it's some stuff that the people don't know that they doing too. And for me, as long as it's agreed upon and it's the other stuff like, okay, you lazy, you tipping your pitches, or you tipping your play call, or your lineman's doing something where it's like, okay, he can't run. Hey, everybody does that. When it goes to outside of that, then that's where it becomes a problem. And as far as suspending them now and being like, hey, that's one of the if you want the best four teams for the playoffs because you only having four. If Michigan continues to win and look impressive, like they got a big game versus Penn State this week, you got to put them in. You got to put them
Yeah,
in.
a lot of
I
people
don't. I don't
are
want to.
trying
I
to
don't want to
put
hear
pressure
nothing.
on the committee. They're trying to put pressure on the committee, but
Yeah.
the committee has no governing powers in college football. All they
No.
do is just look at the teams and basically rank them. Okay, try to properly rank them so they can go to the playoffs. That's it. And,
That's
they
it.
don't. They can't. They don't govern any type of infractions, anything. That's the NCAA. So the committee they hold. I believe they do the committee. Is they headquarters here in Irving?
Yeah. No. That's not the. That's where they meet. They meet at the Gaylord Texan
Yeah,
Hotel.
yeah,
They meet there, and I would say this. I do respect the standpoint of what they do as far as coming in this late, but sometimes I would like to know what they think of some of the teams, some of the early rankings. I would like to see the rankings earlier, but I know they do it later for a reason because that's when it actually counts and matters. But I don't know. It's looking at the rankings, everything is going to play itself out. I just don't want to see I don't know. I last year when Ohio State had CJ Stroud, I just knew they were going to beat Michigan because of how good Stroud was and how their quarterback wasn't. I don't want to see this version of Ohio State make the playoffs if they lose to Michigan because I don't think they're like I just don't see it as a team that them being that great. I would love to see Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't per se want to see that team on a big stage the last year of just a 14. I want either the top undefeated teams, if one of the Pac-12. Well, at this point, if Washington runs the table in the Pac-12 and they go, I want them to make it. Obviously the one-loss teams, whoever's the better. If Florida State continues to be undefeated, I want them to make it in, and then from there, because I don't even know if Georgia's gonna make it out without a loss. Because I wasn't a believer in this Georgia team, and like Mizzou pushed them, but they just didn't have enough. Now they have to. I think they have to play Ole Miss this week.
and
So,
they ultimately gonna play Alabama in the SEC
they're ultimately going to play
championship
Alabama.
game, and
Yeah, because Alabama got
that
that
can
win.
push them out. But I don't know if that will push them out. Well, because Alabama is what ranked just inside the top 10. Now I was asking because Ohio State and Michigan both are currently in the playoff top four, and if they stay like that, and then when they play each other the last game of the season, it's going to be interesting to see if one of them gets bumped out of the top four.
Yeah.
Because you lost to somebody who's already in the top four. Now with Alabama, if they make it, assume if they make it go on to the SEC championship game, they play Georgia, and they beat Georgia, will that be enough to high step them over Texas, who is currently on top of them after they beat them head to head? So, if as a committee, I think they are fine right now with their top four. But as soon one of them loses, and you got to
Yeah.
put one of these other teams right below them, because Washington, they just waiting for somebody to lose so they can jump into the top four.
Yep.
Texas, I think Texas would have had a better chance if they had a better showing against Kansas State.
Well, the one with Kansas State, and especially with their, I think they're going to get a break with having your backup quarterback, being able to win that game. And I think, and the committee showed this, they were like 23 and they dropped to 25, even though they lost. The committee respects them for being a conference champion. They've been around long enough. We can see some of the things that they're trending and they like and value. And so I was listening to some Texas stuff, and they were like, yeah, that the committee respects them. That's why Texas stayed where they were and Kansas State stayed where they were. The thing that may hurt Texas is Oklahoma losing back-to-back games. But at the same time, Alabama rising helps Texas. Beating Kansas, who still ranked, helps Texas, and beating Kansas State. So you beat three ranked teams, and one of them as a top 10 team. And then the weight I put on that game being in Alabama, and now Jalen Melrose putting it together, and they looking good. If they end up making it to the SEC championship game, which they are, unless the bottom just falls out of the season, You got the best team from the better side of the SEC. You beat that team, and you don't know how it's gonna go against Georgia. So that's they have a legitimate claim to make that push, but it's gonna be one of those deals where the number 5 team is gonna have like a really good case. But I do want to address this. I saw you. I appreciate you checking this out. I appreciate you checking this out, Marcus. I see you repping the Ravens, but we building. Um, I saw what you said about, we did talk about that last week about being the quarterback and talking about Dak and Tua. The one thing I want to say with as far as Tua, he's in the point where he's still a young quarterback, and we got to realize the point that hey, he's very very few of these guys come in and do it right away, and sometimes we get spoiled by seeing Joe Burrow do it, and then sometimes we do, and I think sometimes the level of scrutiny Tua should have versus the scrutiny other players should have, you shouldn't have it, and as far as that, I will say this: he played well enough, but just the small details. I don't know if you missed that part earlier, but we definitely talked about in the first segment. It was the small details because he played an excellent game. It just didn't do it. You didn't make you just a play here, a play there. The stepped out of bounds. The play where the guy got tackled at the one. I mean, the pressure coming so fast. He took the sack, and Terrence Steele just. And it's one of those deals where man, he was getting killed, giving up pressures, giving up sacks. And so we did discuss that. And the funny thing about it is we just mentioned the fact that the Cowboys have this tough schedule going in the end where they're playing the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Dolphins. Well, the Dolphins and Cowboys are two teams that they can't beat a big team. They can't win a big game. So it's like we play that one. It's like, dang. So what will we say about those teams after one of them win unless they tie, which is statistically very hard to happen. So that's going to be a interesting week on. Well, I wouldn't say it's going to be an interesting week on sports, but sports talk that week. But that's like right near Christmas, so that game actually might get buried. Well, with the Cowboys, it never gets buried. Let me take that back.
Well, with Tua, keep in mind this is really only Tua's second year with this current roster they had because we saw spurts of him last year because he was dealing with all them concussion issues. So I don't want to. I can't label him not a big game quarterback right now because okay, this year they haven't been winning the bigger games. Well, I guess against better opponents, but it still remain. Still the jury's still out on Tua as far as how he will look for the rest of the season. He definitely has the weapons. I know that the loss of Achan hurt them a whole lot more than what people want to give. Mostert, he's doing okay, but when they had Achan, they was really a monster with him.
The two-headed monster that's just such an impactful mix, and the fact of Mike McDaniels, the way he can call the plays, and just having that extra weapon. And I'm assuming at some point in the season he gets back, and that's gonna be real lethal. I mean, I know he's gonna come back and be back and give the Cowboys hell. Like just it feels like sometimes when it's your team, they always get their players back and fully loaded when they play you. But now that is an interesting thing to see when they play the better teams. Can they, how are they gonna hold up? And the thing is, like I know Black Man had mentioned it earlier, the Cowboys being contenders and beating a playoff caliber team. And I know you mentioned it too. We built it. They're 0-2 so far. So if you look at the schedule, if you look at now, and that gets to where because I'm not gonna lie, after seeing the beat down that the Seahawks took to the Ravens, to a really good team, I don't know if you still want to put them on that list. So we need to kind of know over the next few weeks, are you still going to consider the Seahawks a strong team because they're tied for their division lead? So you get a stretch with the Cowboys as far as opportunities to play good playoff level teams. They're going to play the Seahawks, the Eagles again, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Lions. 5 games in a row, and a mean stretch. And I want to say of those games, they're going to play. It's pretty evenly split. They play 2 at home, 3 at home, and 2 on the road. They play the Lions, the Eagles, and the Seahawks all at home, and they play the Bills and the Bills and the Dolphins back to back on the road. So that's going to be an interesting stretch. Do they go 3-2 in those games? Do they go 1-4? Which I doubt. Do they go 2-3? And it's one of those deals where I think if you want to push your chances, because I see being a contender more so as what's your realistic path to the Super Bowl? And since the NFL took away that second bye week, that number one seed is so valuable. The number one seed is so valuable. The two is still good because that first game, that seven seed is normally a cupcake. So it's like you get that game, you kind of warm yourself up, and then you play the other team that did win a playoff game the last week. But getting two home games is still is impactful.
You
But
saying this will be Dax and Dallas defining season right here? Um,
um,
I don't really know because the thing about
it's
it, because there was a lot of noise that was brought up last year because Dak and his interceptions, even though that was the first time he was posting numbers like that for his ints, and he has not had that issue. I think he's least in the division. I don't know exactly where he at within the conference, but he is not. That's not an issue this year, and well, so far. But the thing about with the Cowboys is the whole thing with them letting, even though last year I believe they were real balanced, the whole thing of them letting Kellen Moore go, uh, Mike McCarthy wanted to focus more on running the ball. Well, and I was mentioning in the offseason, they needed another running back. They need to, a more thumper of a running back because I always believed that Tony Pollard was a change of pace back. And goes to show you now, Tony Pollard hasn't had a 100-yard rushing game since week one.
the week
So,
three.
and the thing was it week three?
It was week three.
So the thing that they was really trying to protect Dak and have a strong running game, they have not. That running game does not exist the past several weeks, and but you seen them putting a little bit more on Dak's shoulders, and Dak has been playing fairly
Yeah,
decent. So he did his thing. Like during this Eagles game, Eagles had a lot of breaks. Like I said, you subtract 9 points from the Cowboys. Dak tight end touchdown because his knee was just short of the goal line, and then Dak stepping out of bounds on his way to the end zone. Then Eagles fumbled the ball 3 times and was able to recover all 3 fumbles. So they were just highly fortunate because I believe the Cowboys looked like the better team. Now Eagles had, of course, their front four. They don't really have to blitz too much. So their front four can put pressure on them. Damn, that's secondary. They need they need some
yeah.
work on that
And that's
secondary.
that's one of those deals to where it's like, and they added Kevin Byard to come and help them and
He
make their
almost cost them because
secondary
he had
better.
that crucial
It,
15-yard penalty at the end of the game.
man, he was getting cooked. I was like, bro, what is, I was like, whoa, this. I was like, so it is one of those deals sometimes, and I'm like, I still down on what the Cowboys did at the deadline, not at least making a move. Like a cornerback like Rasul Douglas was available
I mean, they need a
because
cornerback, a linebacker, and damn sure a running back.
yeah, and my thing is with the running back, I'm still saying now I'm good on the running back, just because yeah, Pollard hasn't looked as explosive. The injury, he's working back himself back from injury, and it just hasn't been the same. Also, it has not looked the same for Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele coming back, and the thing is, as far as the run game, he was one of the best run blockers on the team because he's a better run blocker than pass
That's what got
blocker.
him this contract.
Yep, him working in concert with a Hall of Famer and Zach Martin, them moving stuff on their right side. I mean, it could help for either going to play side or or even for the cutback. They were gonna handle their business. So them not doing the good, and Tyron Smith in and out of lineup, and then at this point, pass protection. If you looked at it, he's been destroying dudes, and it's that's why you be like, yeah, that's why you going to the hall, bro. He'll be destroying dudes at times, and then it's like then he gets hurt, and it's like okay, he's out of lineup, and it's so bad. You don't want to do this because this is a fantasy football. I almost want to be like, hey, bro, yeah, you're gonna play against the Giants to keep yourself warm, but we're not gonna play you against the Panthers. We're gonna play you on Thanksgiving, but we're not gonna. And then you have another game in a week. You almost want to treat him like that because in the past, in those 3 games between Thanksgiving, he's only gonna play one of them, and the one he's gonna play is not gonna be Thanksgiving because it's a short week, and so you feel that way. But it's I don't know. It's their coming out the gate. It's 5-3, and the Philly is 7-1. So they're coming up on their bye. You expect them to play the Giants and expect to win that one. And you expect to win the next two. Washington did clip us last year, so it's one of those deals where it's a 3-game stretch where you need to come out and come out 3-0 to can you put yourself going into December in a place to make a move. But um, we do have enough time because I know we get closing down in the show. Man, I gotta salute my Texas Rangers, man, for a week ago today, winning the first World Series in franchise history, and it meant a lot. Just so much from the loss in 2010, we got smoked. You lose 4-1, gentleman sweep, but the losing seven, and everyone always talking about game six. To be able to flush that away, I felt it was poetic that not only did the Rangers win the World Series, but Nelson Cruz retired like the next day. His paperwork was filed, so it's kind of like now you remove and you get mature and you kind of be like, yeah, the Rangers fan base kind of did Nelson Cruz kind of bad. Where they talk, he was like a pariah here, and like I don't have connection to it. I've seen the play, but I don't have connection to it because I was listening to it on the radio, and then I was like, I had bad reception, and so the last I seen was like the Josh Hamilton home run. And so the next thing I see, I'm like, damn, we supposed to have that in the bag. We're supposed to be popping bottles. Nope. Lost the game. And then, and of course, David Freeze and all this stuff and everything coming full circle and seeing them win. And seeing that, like, I think it was reported that between 500 and 700,000 people came
Yeah.
to celebrated
See,
it. And
the thing about it, my job had because the parade was on a Friday. My
mm,
job had like this little convention meeting at a hotel right over there by that Hurricane Harbor on
oh, man.
Thursday, and I was like, damn, but I didn't know that the parade was gonna be on a Friday, because I was like, damn, man, I hope how we gonna have a meeting over here in the heart of this whole parade and this crowd. But it was right before the storm because it was on Thursday. Because I can imagine, when I used to stay in Arlington, I avoided AT&T Stadium area because it got so congested in there. And when the parade was there, I can imagine just how just packed it was, because Arlington is not a big city,
Nah.
and it was just everybody all of a sudden, you get enough people coming there when they come into the stadium for an event, but now they coming for a whole lot more people, coming for this parade. So, and how I know the rivalry between Houston and Dallas baseball teams is strong. Man, I couldn't stand this, because I was like, I'm gonna sit in it. I'm just gonna sit in it. I'm driving. I'm putting it on the fan. Listen to how they talking on the fan, and how they throwing jabs to Astros. And I'm like, I could not stand just listening to. They were just sounding so excited. I'm like, and all I could think of, I was like, damn it, man, that should have been the Astros, but for whatever reason, we could not win a game at home, and it was that whole month. It started in September. That's when we got swept by the lowly Royals, and and then it lasted into the playoffs. And I remember, the Fox MLB pregame, Derek Jeter was like, "Man, this team can go over there and sweep Texas on the road." But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, they can't win at home, which is by far is just weird. Cause that's how they won the World Series last year. They won two games at home because they beat the Phillies in six. But it was just it reminded me of 2019 when they lost the World Series against the Nationals with a road team. Exactly what happened in the ALCS this year. The road team won every game, but that was versus the Nationals. The Nationals had no business even being in the
Yeah.
World Series.
They were so far out of it at the
Yeah,
in like June or July. They were so far out, and they just went on a torrid
exactly.
pace. But
That's why you hear people they was complaining at the beginning of the postseason, because in basketball and football, well, in football you always one injury away to change your season. Basketball, because their series are the best of seven, generally the better team will win the game, win the series. So many times, outside of an injury, the better team will win the title. Unless it's just two juggernauts or two heavyweights meeting in the title, it could be 50-50. It's not baseball. It's not like that at all.
Mm.
Both the Diamondbacks and the Rangers both basically backed in to the playoffs, and they just got hot. And the Astros was because a lot of them saying, okay, there was a long layoff if you was like the number one seed or whatnot. I think even the number two seed. There was
Yeah, the top
just
two
that
seeds, I
extra
think.
the extra 5 days was a bad thing. But the Astros, it didn't bother them. They beat the Twins in what
Was it four?
three games. It was best of three, no best of five. So they beat them 3 games to 1, and then they ultimately met up with the Rangers. But you heard about just the wild card teams having this advantage per se, and a lot of times in baseball, the better team doesn't ultimately go on and win the title. Now this year with Texas, Texas offense was always, I think they offense a lot of their numbers was in the top three the whole
Yeah.
season. The thing about the Rangers though was their bullpen. I mean, you talking about the offense was top three, as much runs they can score on offense, they bullpen gonna give it right back
The
up.
bullpen blew the
And
worst.
somehow they just did a 180 in
Yeah.
the playoffs. The Astros was able to get to them a little bit, but they couldn't break that straw because they kept getting the bases loaded, but nobody could bring them home unless they was in Arlington. That's just a weird thing. But the Rangers bullpen also just did a 180 in the playoffs, completely different than how they was, and they got 162 games. So you figure, okay, you got a good litmus test on how this team would perform, and all of a sudden just do a complete 180. Nobody saw the Diamondbacks going on and beating the Dodgers and the Phillies. So it's just baseball is just weird about the teams that ultimately go on and win the titles. So it's just all it takes is the team just to get hot, and it's a completely
And
different game.
that's what happened. I'm glad because I'm not gonna lie. I knew it because I wanted both teams to be good at the same time. So I know I got a lot of Houstonians as friends, and I thought it would be cool. Like when we made it, I was like, man, we always dreamt of like them playing in the ALCS. I didn't realize it from the other side and how much I really dislike the team. And so it's up there with the Eagles and the Giants. And the disdain for me the Celtics, the disdain like when Altuve hit that home run and won that game 5, like we was out to eat, and I was like, yo, like the whole place was just silent. And I normally I'm even keeled, but right afterwards I was extremely negative, and I was like, yeah, this series is over. I was like, I think this one might be over. Initially, that's what I'm saying, and I'm telling White, I was like, yeah, I don't know the momentum. And then I looked at the starting pitching, and I had some time to step back, and I was like, if they come out and get a good pitching performance, I was like, if we can get it to 7, I think we can win it. And then the standpoint, and that's even after the whole thing, the dust up with Garcia, and the biggest thing that I was proud of was this: I hate it when the team talks smack and you can't stick it to them. So when Bregman said what he said after winning the AL West, that I was just like, and then the writer for the Astros, I forgot his name, that came out and said the Rangers were celebrating too much, and for our GM to be upset. So if he said it, I knew the team knew it, and for him to rip that guy and rip him up in his interview that he does weekly, I was like, oh, okay. So first of all, we already knew y'all listen to the press clippings. Y'all know what's going on. You don't like the Astros. They don't care for you because it was kind of like and it's one of those deals to where some Astros fans are like, yeah, little brother, this and that. But from the context of Houston and Dallas area sports, Houston more so points the finger at us because it's like, hey, we're the biggest city. They have a lot going on. Great city, love living there. But for whatever reason, on the sports side, the angle comes a lot towards the Metroplex's way. And
It's
the one
mainly
thing about
the reason is the Cowboys. The
yeah,
Cowboys are calling so much
it,
attention.
it draws so much attention. And so the thing is, they have a lot of focus. And so when it was the Sunday night baseball game, and it was in Houston, there was an Astros fan with a jersey, and the jersey the number was 0, and he had a custom name, and the name on the back was Rangers Championship. So it was cute. It was like, oh, Rangers Championship 0, and I was like, and they made sure that the ESPN made sure they get that guy, and they got it on there, and I was like, man, that stings. And at the time, I'm thinking, I'm just trying to win the series. I'm trying to be a competitive team. It did not get real that you could really do something and win it all until the trade deadline. When they made that move to be like, okay, we're gonna go get Scherzer, and Scherzer lifted his no trade. That's when I was like, okay, we really going for this. I was like, Montgomery, I said, we need another starting pitcher. He's a throw in. But when Nathan Eovaldi, the way he looked, I was like, if you get the top tier pitcher, you add a Adolis, Aroldis Chapman, and it's kind of like the perfect storm hits for a bad bullpen. Hey man, some of them starters, man, you guys are bullpen. Those guys that were middle relievers, hey bro, put your cap on, and if it's a blowout, we'll need you. But you stand tight. So being able to use Heaney as a hybrid guy, and glad to see he's back and using different starters, that was like the best thing for it. And then for them not only to win, but now it sucked in 2011, 2010, 2011, those off seasons. It was like big hype because after 2010, then we added Beltran. And so it was like we were making moves, and I want to say it was 12. We was like, oh, the Rangers have the winter meetings where all the free agent moves locked up. We were supposed to get Zach Greinke, didn't happen, and it's like after we did get Greinke in that offseason, we started trading pieces. We just start going on a drop as far as not winning and being competitive. And so to see them now win it, and then all the buzz is, oh, Ohtani is going to the Rangers. I'm one of those things. I'm gonna treat it like LeBron to the Lakers. You can give me all the tea leaves you want. Until I see it, I'm not gonna get super hype about it. Now, when I see it, if it happens, I'm gonna be extremely excited. I'm gonna have my chest stuck out. But as of now, I'm still basking in the fact that like this was a team growing up. This was a team growing up that did not do a lot of winning. Like I didn't realize like the Rangers hadn't ever made the playoffs until like the 90s. When I was a kid, when I was a kid, I didn't understand like sports and stats and hearing that because it's like you follow baseball, but it's so long. And so for them to see a team go from the bottom of the barrel, and for the fact that as a person in the Metroplex, you got to share the Cowboys with everybody else.
Yeah,
you got to share the Cowboys with all the national fans.
If you're not winning, you just gonna get stampede by it. So the Cowboys can lose, and they'll still be the talk of the town.
It's still gonna be the talk. But
everybody be pissed off.
the Rangers are our team. It's our team. Like a lot of people, I know they feel that about the Mavs. Not a Mavs fan, so I can't see how they feel like this is our championship. This is our thing. But it's crazy. Like I guess people could now know, like, yeah, the Rangers are the clear number 2 because they said they outdrew the Mavericks parade in 2011 by a ton. And you got to realize that all basketball championships are in the summertime, so you ain't got to worry about kids missing school. You don't have to worry about that. But they literally are a couple of different school districts were letting kids out of school because they knew everybody's gonna go see this. So I know I couldn't make it because of a blackout period at work, but I was glad to see everybody celebrating. I know people were nitpicking about, oh, they should have had the big bus where they have everybody there. Instead, they had trucks with everybody's family with them. I thought that was a cool play. My thing is, I don't care. We're arguing about a parade. That's the most important thing. Like the parade happened.
I think it was a quick turnaround. They won the championship on a Wednesday and had a parade on Friday.
And that's because
maybe if they would have waited, they would have had that. Yeah, a whole lot of that. But they said, man,
but they know the players getting ready to go out because baseball's so long. They get ready to go out of town.
Yeah,
and so they know they
get a break.
Yeah, they need that. They need their break. Like my boy Mark Simeon played all 179. Salute to him. Next year we got to get that man a couple of breaks because that's a lot of baseball. That's a lot of wear and tear. But the fact that because of also backstory, because of what happened to the Mavericks in 2006 when the parade route leaked, that has been like a thing in the Metroplex. It's like you saying the word parade too early, and then especially with the Rangers saying it too early when the fact that we were once up 3-2 and lost that. And so bringing up the parade thing is a thing. But as city leaders and team leaders, you got to be able to do that, keep that lockdown secret, have that plan and well. And I say before the season starts, if you have a championship contender team, you have those plans in place and let no one know. So now we've been
having it in Arlington instead of one of the 2 bigger cities. They say
the team
is in Arlington,
and that's owed to from the tax breaks that the city of Arlington has gave the Texas Rangers to building them a new stadium that basically give him a free stadium when this stadium was fine and could have been going for another 20, 25 years. Yeah, they owed that love to Arlington. And so it's just like, hey, be loyal to them. They've been loyal to you. And the fact that they did it, and if you look at the backdrop, because I know some Houstonians, like one that I like, a writer I like from Houston, the Houston area, he had took a jab at it. The way they did it, the way Texas Live is set up, the backdrop of where they had the parade and everything to see the stadium and have like the Texas Live right there and where everybody was. Now you can see the fruition for why they built this and how this is coming, and more of the Texas Live is supposed to be coming. So, but I know I went on about that. I appreciate you letting me get my championship spiel. I know I'm real hype about that one. I know the show is basically done, so I've given my thoughts. Sonny, anything else is up to you, my brother.
Well, I guess with my final thoughts, I'm just gonna I'm looking at the whole Colorado Buffaloes. Now, I wasn't able to see their last game. I was doing something else. We've been busy around here, but I know they resulted in an L. And now that they haven't been, I'm trying to how much games have they lost in a row?
Man, they lost a good number in a
I think they
row,
only
man.
lost about two in a row.
Let me
What
see.
what
It
are they
feels
now?
like
Are they 4-5? Damn, I
4 and
forgot the
5
record.
now.
Okay, but basically now that they are losing games, and what's his name? He has a vendetta out for Prime. Jason Whitlock. He
Yeah,
he blamed Prime for. If you remember, the players' stuff was stolen out in the locker room. He blamed Coach Prime for that. Basically saying that the
and they lost three
people,
in a row.
so three in a row. So the people that he was inviting to the locker room, a lot of them are hip hop influenced. He was saying that because of that particular crowd, somebody must have went and it just branched off from the hip hop crowd that ultimately made their way into the locker room in Colorado and stole the players' belongings. He comes at Prime in every way. He doesn't believe Prime is a good coach. He believes Prime can't coach, really. He's always saying elite players don't make great coaches. Um, I don't really remember him saying that about, but I don't follow Whitlock like that. That's why
Yeah,
it just stands out to me how much he's go. It's reminded me of how Skip Bayless is with LeBron James. He
yeah,
criticizes everything LeBron does, and now that's what you're seeing with Jason Whitlock and Coach Prime. And he's been like number one. You got a dartboard. It's just a big Colorado. The main thing on his dartboard. He's just throwing darts at them every time, every chance he gets, especially since they've been losing games. And my whole thing is and then he's not the only one. You're seeing like noise about it on social media about
yeah.
now people are, throwing dirt on Colorado. Like I always stated from the beginning of all this, I've never been a Colorado fan, and especially recently, Colorado hasn't really been getting that much attention. But they did only win one game last year, and they already +3 on the win columns. But more importantly, last year, yes, they won one game, but they was losing games by an average of 29 points. This year, they was in several of those games they lost. Now, recently, because that on that 3-game losing streak, one of them includes that embarrassing comeback they gave up to Stanford. But the last two games, UCLA and
Oregon
who did they
State
play? Oregon State. The offense was no show, and
offense.
that was the thing. Their offense was able to hang with anybody outside of Oregon. Like I said, Oregon bullied them. They put them in their place. But everybody else, the offense was able to show up. But the last two games, the offense and of course, Whitlock going after Sanders, and I'm talking about Shador,
Going after Shador.
and they it's just interesting now that I'm saying now it's like a free for all against Colorado. But the thing about it, at the beginning of the season, I can remember multiple people saying that we're not expecting Colorado to win no championship right now. We barely even expect them to win a bowl game. We were saying if they win 6 games this year, that will be a super plus. But we just want to see how this team looks like under Coach Prime, especially with the stuff that was said about him before he even got to their first game in Colorado. They was talking about Shador Sanders basically being, how can this HBCU quarterback come and have success in the Power Five? You heard all of this, and then they were saying, okay, Prime, because Prime really hasn't really said that much since week one when he kept saying, "Do y'all believe?" Even after the other wins, he hasn't. he hasn't had a press conference after a game like he had week one, but that was because of all the stuff that people were saying about him and his
Hmm.
program before the game started. That's why he was commenting about that. So it's now, it's interesting now that I'm seeing it's like a free for all going on for that program. I don't really know if they're going to be bowl eligible this year because
No, they got Arizona at home. They have Arizona at home, and then they go at Washington State, who has been sliding. Washington State was once ranked, and even that game, the ESPN predictor got them winning. Yeah, they went from, let me see, Washington State. They lost a tough one to Wisconsin, who at the time you thought, no, they knocked off Wisconsin, and so they had won one, two, three, four in a row. Lost a close one to UCLA, but then when they got smoked by Arizona, it's just been a fall. They got smoked by Arizona. They got smoked by Oregon. They got smoked by Arizona State. Well, they lost it 11, and then Stanford beat them by 3. Like they just been reeling. They got Cal, and then they got Washington State. So my thing is, if they can find a way to, if they can find an upset and being at home, I think Coach Prime is gonna get the game well because now for the first time in a while, you're gonna be able to play the hey man, we're the underdog, we're the massive underdog. Yeah, we're so far from being in the top 25 we once were, but this is a top 25 team, and they're coming into our house. I
hmm
think they have a chance to if like now, and our thing is for this, and I'll stand on this. If he comes out and wins this game, then Coach Deion gets to go ahead, and we need to take some of it off the Whitlocks. I don't listen to that guy. That guy's he's that broke clock. He'll say something right every now and again, but he's such a disgrace to me. But if he wins this game, you got to give him some credit for being able to say, hey, season's in the dump. You could just easily say this could be a free for all, lose the rest of these games, and just tuck it in and recruit and hit the transfer portal. If he gets the guys up to win this game, I think that's a big deal. Now the thing is that I want to see is that game going to be televised? Because now they've lost some of the luster, and so you want to see,
yeah,
hey, are
a
they still going
lot.
to
I've
be?
been noticing that their games have been televised. You just don't see none of. I've been, I was thinking, I was like, well, they definitely don't have this following, this
Yeah,
media
the
following,
following
but their
the
games are
bug.
still televised.
Matter of fact, this one is on. Now this one's at 1 o'clock Central Time in the Pac-12 network.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
they hit them boys. They hit that one. And that one's hit. And I want to say the Washington State one. That's on a Friday night on Pac-12 after dark. It's at 9:30. So that's another one that's basically hidden. But it's so they scheduling them
It's
off because it's
football.
like. But the thing is, they got them when they needed it. They got the juice when they needed it, and that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna squeeze it while they got you. But yeah, I'm really pulling from the win because it's like I like the fact that it's something a new, a shake up. Now the only thing I hope he does do is when he gets more coordinators, get more black coordinators in there, especially offensive. Defensively, they will give a black man a defensive coordinator position, but offensive coordinator, that's the keys to the head coaching job. So I hope they get that. But I'm looking forward to another good week of college because it's really getting tight in here. But man, it's I'm just really want to see how this race shakes up to who's gonna get these Final Four spots because it's like you can't just say that Florida State's out of the way where they just can't lose a game because they played something close. So in this week you got coming up, I mean, let's see. Ooh, that Penn State and Michigan as far as the big noon Sunday kickoff Saturday. That's going to be an interesting one. And then we're going to see if Miami got some fight, if they can kind of do something to Florida State. They're 14-point dogs, so I doubt it. Washington has another test. They're playing Utah, and they're really impressed me. And the SEC, man, Missouri has really showed something, but they're playing Tennessee, so I want to see. That's a big one. And Ole Miss going to Georgia. I think that's probably the game of the week. That I want to say that one is probably the game. Well, it's between that one and the Penn State one, and that one's at night. The Ole Miss that's in Georgia, so that's gonna be a tough one on Ole Miss. Only thing is, offensively, are they gonna be able to push Georgia because they actually have a decent little quarterback and some offense? So that's gonna be a real good one, man. But Ah man, let's see who else. Oh yeah, Bama doesn't play anybody. I think Bama's season, they as far as playing anybody, the only game that they got really left of consequence. Yep, the only game they got left. I mean, they got Kentucky and in Kentucky, so they can't just go to sleep on that one. But they are 11-point favorites, and then they play that what is it? That Sun Belt Saturday on the 18th, and then they finish up with the Iron Bowl in Auburn. And Auburn is definitely gonna get up for that game, but being a better
Hmm.
team, they basically are gonna be in the SEC championship. And so we got another big week of sports ahead, man. I'm looking forward to it. I know the Cowboys basically at this point you're hoping they just stay out of injuries and hopefully players overall because when we get to the playoffs, we don't the playoff stretch you won't got teams to be healthy. But
Yep.
that's basic. Well, the only other thing I got, and I was gonna save it for last. Shout out to Corey Seager, gave me what I wanted. The quietest person on the Rangers had to come out and had to have the mic drop. When he had the mic drop, I can't tell you how many times I've shared that because I felt that personally because we choked off the division. And we may have choked off the division, but we won it all. When he came out and said that, hey man, a lot of people wondered what would happen if the Rangers didn't win the World Series. The fact it was him, I was like, bro, I wasn't. Everybody was quiet with their speeches, but for him to say it, I was like,
Because I didn't
yo,
know what Bregman said was getting that much attention. I saw it, and they were just celebrating in a locker room. And then I saw Seager. I'm like, well, I guess they saw
yeah,
break the Astros uh division win celebration.
yeah,
So, but it like I was mentioning when the
good point.
series start, it's something that MLB should really focus on, especially now that both
That's
teams are having some success, and really promote this rivalry, um, especially for people down here in the south western part of the country. Because we damn sure just get tired of the whole Yankees Red Sox. Some of us really
yeah,
don't care, um, but they force feed, and you always hear about how, and for a sport that always complaining or whatever, you hear the MLB broadcast, not broadcast, but the media complaining how a sport should be promoting their players more and better and all that stuff. I was
it's
like,
on
well,
them.
that could be a possibility, but they only focus on about literally like three or four franchises: the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and sometimes
The
you can throw the
Mets,
Phillies in there.
the Phillies and the Mets because they East Coast bias,
Yeah,
but
and the Mets,
this
because
this
the
is
two
the
New York teams.
your
But
team.
that's
But
it. They don't focus
this
on
is the
no
time.
other squads, and only the Astros because of 2017. But really, they don't focus on no other squad. So if you see how, and the two teams got almost into a scuffle in Game
Yeah,
Four, which they did. They got almost to a scuffle in one of the series during the regular series. So it's like
yeah.
legit strife between the two squads. Promote that. But
You gotta
who
promote
knows?
that.
It'll be interesting to see how they go about next year, how they promote that rivalry.
I need it on 4 times nationally, and the fact that and my biggest thing, and I know I didn't say it earlier, the fact that you at least got a player that we have been the team that's looking up to the Astros for the last 7 years. The fact that I've seen Astro fans, he was at the bat, man, I hated those guys. And I was like, now y'all know how we feel about what's the name. And it's not that we hate him because it's like he's a bad person. We hate him because he's such a good player and he hurts you. That's the best way to sports hate someone is that they're just destroying you. And the fact that he just, as that ALCS MVP, he was on a tail. Even in the game when he was 0 for 4, to get that other homer to end it, that was crazy. That was crazy.
But yeah, well, that's really all I have for this week's show. I think we did a pretty good job in touching the topic. So you got anything else? Oh, well, we lost Dante. But yeah, as I was as I was mentioning before, that's pretty much does it for our show today. We appreciate y'all for joining us this week, and can't wait to see y'all next week. We'll catch back up on the sports. But until then, it's the 1-1 Sports Show. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.